Hi, welcome to Robyn's Mobile Roost. Today I'm in Paducah, Kentucky. We are actually on our way back to Minnesota. My son just sent me a picture. They are camping in Albert Lea with their boys, and they're out in the snow around a campfire. I told him that I felt like turning tail and running back south, but we're going to meet them in a couple of days in Iowa, so I'm hoping that it gets warmer up there. Now today I'm going to share with you a card that I found that France Martin shared, and I was just, it was so cool. And I had never done this technique before. It's called Joseph's Coat, and she actually added the kissing technique to the Joseph's Coat. So it's like a double technique here. And it's a little bit complicated in that you have to really be careful about which ink you're putting your stamp into and cleaning your stamps. But if you get all that straight, it's really not that hard of a technique to do. So let's just flip the camera here and start stamping. So the stamp sets that we're going to be using for this Jacob's Coat kissed card is the Art Gallery and the Dragonfly Garden. So the Dragonfly Garden, we're going to swipe these little tiny dragonflies to use for our kissing part, and then the rest of the stamps are going to come from the Art Gallery stamp set. So for this technique, you need a stamp that is fairly solid, you know, like a fill-in stamp. And right at the moment, this is the only one that I have with me here in my camper. So this is the stamp we're going to use. And we are going to start with a piece of basic white that is 2 3/4 by 4. Basic black, which is going to be a matting layer, that is 3 by 4 1/4. A piece of the Forever Fern Designer Series paper that's 4 by 5 1/4. And then just our thick basic white card base that is 5 1/2 by 8 1/2 and then scored at 4 1/4. So I'm going to set all of these off to the side while we start and do our stamping. Now I've also got my blending brushes here because we're going to be using them to put our Joseph's Coat color on here. So I'm going to start with the lightest color. It's just kind of a habit to start with the lightest color. Now you might notice that I have 3 different brushes. I have a set and I just keep one for each color. You don't have to do that. You certainly can wash them out and then use them with different colors. I just find it, what should I say? It's the lazy man's way of doing it. So I'm just going to put a few dots, and I'm going to close this just because I've been known to stick my brush in the wrong color. And then we're going to do the Granny Apple, and I'm not sure if I mentioned that first one was the Bumblebee, which is one of the in colors. And you can make this as vibrant or as light as you want by just adding more ink or less ink as you're rubbing it on. I might even come back and take these and do them again depending on how even I get all of this. And this is the Magenta Madness, which is another in color. Ooh, that's a bright one. I really haven't used this color much. It almost seems a little bit too bright for my taste, but I thought it would go good in this flower. Okay, actually I think that's a pretty good coverage, so we're probably set there. So we're going to start stamping with our Versamark and our large fill-in flower. So we'll start with the flower on the top. Now first of all, we ink it up with the Versamark, and then we are going to take our tuxedo black. And now this is the trickiest part with this card. You need to be really careful to keep your ink pads separate what you're stamping when. So we're going to go ahead and ink this up, and then we're going to basically just stamp onto our stamp. We're putting the black ink onto the flower. And then we're going to wipe this off so we don't spread our ink. And we're just going to keep doing that, cleaning. Make sure you clean in between each stamp. And then once you have the, you know, and I think I've got a spot here where I missed some. I'm going to go ahead and ink this a little bit more right here. So now I've got my little dragonflies all over on my flower. And then we're going to just go ahead and stamp. And then we're going to go ahead and do that again with our leaves. And we want to be fairly quick because we're going to have to put our embossing powder on there. We're going to use the clear embossing powder. I'm going to close these so we don't fall into them. You laugh when I say that, but it happens. And now I will grab my embossing powder. And this is just a clear embossing powder. I don't have my handy dandy paper plates. You'd think when I was camping I would have paper plates, but I don't. I do glamper camping in my fifth wheel. So we want to make sure that we get good coverage, and it is kind of hard to see with all the different colors on here. One thing you do have to make sure, and I actually gave this a little bit of a zap with the heat gun before I started, is make sure that your ink from your colors is all dry before you go ahead and put the Versamark on. And even though I hit mine with the heat gun, it almost looks like it's sticking. Now, if you have a little brush, you could go around and brush off any of the excess that you see. But I actually don't have one of those with me either, so we're just gonna wing it and hope this turns out. And I'm going to go hit this with the heat gun and see how it turns out. So here we are back from running the heat tool over it, and I think it turned out pretty good. Now this is actually another scary part. You're going to take your black ink pad and you're going to whoosh it over the whole thing. I know this is really scary. And it looks like my ink pad is not overly wet, which would make this easier. And you're just going to get it all completely saturated with ink. Pretty cool, isn't it? So after you have all the ink rubbed on, you're going to go back with a paper towel or a soft cloth and rub all the excess ink off of the flower. See, there was a little bit on there. And now we just have to layer it. And you see, I did end up with a little bit of the embossing powder stuck where I didn't want it, but it's not too bad. I think it'll be fine. Now we're just going to adhere all of our layers. And I'm just putting this on that black layer, kind of to finish off the edges. You could use a colored piece if you wanted here too. And then I'm going to adhere this. And this is such pretty paper, this Forever Fern. for any of your floral projects. It's just gorgeous. And it has so many different colors of green. It kind of goes with just about any flower you would want. And it has different varieties of leaves, not just ferns. So now, before I glue that down, we have a little decision to make. Now I've got just a scrap here of white, and I'm going to do congratulations for this greeting on this card. Actually, we could just leave it plain and go ahead and put the greeting on the inside, and leave it blank until you want to use it, depending upon what you wanted to use it for. But I think we'll put a greeting on it. Now the art gallery has a set of dies called Floral Gallery. I could have it wrong, but they have some nice cutouts for the labels. So I am just going to go cut this out with one of those cool label dies. So here is our congratulations with that cutout with that label die. And there are 2 different label dies to cut the 2 different sizes of greetings. And I think I'm going to put it right across the bottom like that. So we can just go ahead and adhere this right in the center. I'm going to flip this over because I don't really want to rub it. Well, it looks like, there we go. Okay, and then I think we'll put these on with some dimensionals. And I'm going to use the mini ones because it is a little bit small, and then I don't have to cut them. And we'll just put this across the bottom. Oops. There. And we have our Joseph's Coat Kissing Technique card. So if you would like to purchase any of the supplies that were used to make this card, or if you need some other supplies, hop on over to my store and you can shop right there. I'll also attach my blog post, so it'll have like a list so that you can see the entire list if you want, and just click add to shopping cart. Thanks for stopping, and I hope you enjoyed this technique.